Nice. Welcome to the Surf Quest vlogcast. We're on the air with the Moustache Banditos. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves, beginning with Aaron. Tell us a little about yourself.
Hey Brian, nice to be here with you. My name's Aaron, shaper and owner of Elevated Surfcraft, and I'm down here in Santiago, Chile with my best friend, Alex Petrogiani.
I'm Aaron's best friend, as he just said, and I bring the yoga to the consciousness and the ride, and I'm just so honored and proud to be here in South America for the first time riding these Andean mountains with my best friend. And again, Cosmic Banditos style, from the earth to the heavens and everything in between. It's been absolutely magical here.
This is kind of elevated, I would say. Alex, tell us a little bit about the Southern Hemisphere. It's a winter there. Why is that?
Well, being in the Southern Hemisphere, we're in the upside down. It's like Stranger Things. And so not only are we in the upside down, we're also in a different season. So, our December is the equivalent of what we're experiencing here in summer. The difference and the change going from summer to winter and experiencing this endless winter. And it's been fantastic.
Yeah. So, Aaron, how'd you get onto this? What made you decide to pull the trigger on the project? Why don't you walk us through from conception to pulling the trigger and to going, right?
I mean, it kind of just came as a dream, right? You kind of keep hearing that winter is ever present, depending on where you are on the world. And as we're always looking for the snow, I think I had enough summertime heat and flip-flops at the beach, and just got this little chirping word that the snow was starting to fall down here in the Andes. The world has opened back up after the pandemic, so it became available again. And we didn't really know much, but our social media director, Trini, lives down here in Santiago and was able to help us with some arrangements and figuring out what to do, where to go, how to do it. They speak Spanish primarily down here, so that was a language barrier to kind of figure out. And we just kind of decided to send it. And if I was going to come down here, I wanted to come down with my best friend. We didn't really need a big team or a lot of media or stuff, because we didn't really have a solid plan. So we just hopped a couple flights, prayed that the snow would be falling, and happened to end up here just in time.
So I got your Instagram up, and you've been kind of posting the adventures as you've gone along. Here's the page where you're kind of talking about the adventure, right? So the last time you guys together were, it says here, in Japan. So it's been a while, huh?
Yeah, COVID really brought us into a separation. Being the Canadian of the Elevated Surfcraft group, we had a pretty strict quarantine. And so this is the first time I've internationally traveled for 3 years. And it's, again, the greatest choice to make. Bandito style, come down to South America and be part of the Andean mountains and receive the beautiful energy of the people here in South America. It's been wonderful.
So tell us a little bit about the terrain and where you went geographically. So how do you get from here to there?
So Santiago is this kind of sprawl city in the valley that's pretty high, probably about, I think it's almost 2,000 feet, but it's surrounded by these giant mountains that just jack up. So from the city, about an hour and a half to 2 hours, you can kind of go up a few of these different canyons, and then these super crazy switchback roads that take you up to about 9, 10, 12,000 feet. So our first adventure was up to Valle Nevado, which was kind of just straight out of Santiago. We had to leave at about 5:30 in the morning and land at the mountain before they even opened at 9 a.m.
Oh, nice. And then the weather was good, right? You got some snow?
Yeah, so the storm cycles we've noticed here kind of come in about a day or two, just kind of womp into the mountains. Windy, overcast, fog, gray out, like just can't see anything. And then by the next day, it is bluebird and sunny. and we had kind of 2 back-to-back storms, followed by 2 bluebird and probably 1.5 foot deep days. Yeah, so what you're seeing here is kind of our day 1 driving up to Valle Nevado and the snow conditions that we just arrived at. It was just a guess. We just had booked our tickets, and to be able to land in this massive open terrain with really nobody there and ride fresh POW all day in the middle of August kind of blew our minds.
Yeah, it's like it just happened, and worked out perfect. That's great.
Brian, I think Aaron has a little bit of a spider sense when it comes to powder, a kind of innate gift for picking the right windows of time. Being on the adventure with him for over 16 years, he always seems to pull it off just magically. So there's some kind of method to his madness when it comes to searching for powder. And of course, takes the engineer of surf crafts to be able to have that innate gift.
Yeah, the spider sense. I like that. It's pretty good. I guess that's the resort. Looks like it's freaking buried, huh?
Yeah, so it's kind of a cool system. They have a couple hotels built right on top of the mountain. So you go up and you stay for 2, 3, 4 days, and it's pretty much ski in, ski out. And really only the people who are staying there are the people riding on the mountain. There are day people coming up and down, but it's kind of most conducive. Everything you could need from your breakfast to the spa, to these great rooms with balconies overlooking the entire mountain, and you just are there.
And had you been on a Poma lift before? I ride them. I used to ride them when I learned to snowboard, 20 years ago.
The
It's kind
Palma
of
lift had a
challenging,
little,
right?
yeah, the Palma lift had a little bit of horsepower. So this one, it kind of kicks you. You first have to cradle it between your legs, really hold it, and then they're like 3, 2, 1, and it just shoots you like a rocket. So me and Aaron felt like we were Mario Luigi, a little firepower between our legs, just woohoo!
Oh my God. Yeah, I remember, you had to ride up kind of sideways and then swing the bar around. You keep the board moving. I liked it because it was good cardio, right? Because it's work getting up the hill, right?
It's like a thigh master, Brian.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they're kind of interesting because they're all over the mountain. But it really gives access to all of these different zones without having to do the full infrastructure of a lift. And it also kind of keeps the number of people in each of those areas to a limited. So this particular lift we found, I don't know, about 2:30 on the first day we were there. And we just milked the little terrain next to it, probably 8 or 9 runs, all to ourselves. And it was just empty. It was just like a little private resort for us amongst, there were maybe 20 of these around the mountain.
Yeah.
So we had just that pitch all to ourselves for 10 runs.
Nice.
Yeah.
What boards were you riding?
See, I was on the Goldfish and Alex was on the Whiskey Jack.
And how do those particular boards match up for the terrain? Woo!
I think they were great because, again, they're big tapered shapes. A lot of the terrain we were on was pretty low, medium angle. So having a lot of extra float. Also with a little bit of camber to play the variable conditions. But again, it was a very supportive base with a light, fluffy powder on top. But we were able to work some extra further zones all to ourselves because we just had that little bit of advantage in our equipment.
Tell me about one of your favorite video clips.
Probably one of my favorite video clips was a very, very simple clip that we shot on the Insta360 with the 10-foot pole. It kind of has a drone effect to it. And on that day, I took out the 510 log. A lot of Valle Nevado is very low to medium angle, which kind of means that most people on traditional equipment can't actually make it to most of the terrain and powder zones. But on some of our specialty boards, we were able to gobble it up, no problem. So there's a clip of me riding with the hotels and the resorts in the background, just cruising about 5 feet off of the groomer piste, where there was completely fresh powder. No one had gone there, and that was probably about 11:30 in the morning.
Right. Yeah. So the equipment matches the terrain is a win-win for everybody, right?
Absolutely. And out of any resort I've pretty much ever ridden around the world, I was very impressed by the Valley Nevado style of terrain, amount of people or lack of people, and the openness of the possibilities. Just kept milking,
Yeah.
and it was crazy. We just kind of kept kept going back, because why not?
Yeah. Right. So tell me about the surf vibe. Like, yeah, I guess the folks at the resort maybe weren't clued into this whole concept, right? What were some of the reactions you got?
Actually, it's very interesting here, because from the mountains to the city to the ocean is all kind of 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours. And there's a lot of coastline here, and there's a lot of mountain stuff here. The mountain surf idea made a lot of sense to people. And we really came across a lot of very open-minded and interested snowboarders who saw what we were doing, and they were just stoked. Probably more than I've actually seen anywhere in the world. Every single snowboarder we came across really understood what our designs were for, how they worked, what we were up to. And, a couple stickers go a long way to build the big following down here. And by the end of day one, we had 100 people hitting us up trying to get boards from us. So
Oh, yeah.
it was kind of amazing.
Right. You said your social media director lives there, right? So tell us about that connection.
Yeah, so she was working in Mammoth as a J1 up at the mountain. And I think kind of during the pandemic, she made her way back to Chile, and we've been working remotely. But yeah, she's down here working with a couple other brands as well that are very progressive in development in the surf lifestyle area. So she really gets it, but she's also very connected to a lot of people who just love this vibe. And it turns out there's really a lot of those kind of people out here.
Guys, man, what a freaking epic trip. You've been at the resort, now you're going to go out and you chartered a helicopter. Aaron, how'd you find the helicopter? Tell us how it went down.
Well, the heli experience has kind of gotten it. I got bit by the bug, because when you have the opportunity to fly to the top of any peak that you can see and ride these huge open canvases of fresh powder, it's really the optimal experience, especially with our boards. So anytime when that can be kind of come a possibility, I'm looking for it. And this particular helicopter adventure came to us from numerous avenues. You kind of start putting out the word, who do we go with? Who should we get in contact with? What area are we going to be in? Trini's family, our social media director, her family has a small little cabin up in the mountains, which turns out to be very close neighbors to heli operation. I was also turned on to this heli operation from about 6 different unrelated individuals. You need to go with Christian with dos tiempos. Go with Christian, dos tiempos. Go with Christian, dos tiempos. So after all of these people kind of came in and referred us to, we reached out to Christian, and I was really, really surprised and impressed by the amount of communication and care that he put into building a rapport with us before we had even booked anything. He wanted to know who we were, what our experience in the past had been, what we were looking for in terrain and style and vibe and type of day. He was very receptive, kind of going through all of our Instagram and seeing what we our perspective on lines and risk, and what I really, sometimes in a heli operation, you kind of just show up, you get put in a group, and you kind of just play to the lowest common denominator according to whatever the guide thinks is best. This experience was This experience was very well catered to exactly what we were looking for. We booked the whole heli. We told them that we were looking for medium, low angle, super wide open terrain. I specified and started to describe that we were looking for these left hand and right hand walls. That our style was a surf style, which he totally understood and immediately connected us to our guide Spiro, who's one of three brothers who are kind of the surf, skate, snow borders of Chile.
Brethren. Found the brethren. That's good.
They just got it. They totally understood exactly the terrain we were looking for. We picked a certain amount of time that seemed appropriate for us for the day. And we never, it was very important that we had time to be selective of our runs, to take our time for our runs so that we could do our filming, to hang out and chill and eat and snack, and never feel like we were pushing to try to get more runs into the day. Okay, 5 runs for the day. Perfect. Let's just really, really enjoy that time out there. And Christian was all about it. And it just made the entire experience, it added a value to the entire experience. And for us to go out there, something that I've been promising to Alex for 10 years, to finally be able to bring him on a heli adventure with all of our different boards, for him to unleash his creative possibility, was really the true blessing of this trip.
Over to you, Alex. Tell me about the heli. So give me the alphabet there.
You got it, Brian. Yeah, it was my first time heli skiing. It was a dream of Aaron to share that experience when he first had it with me. We've waited a long time to have it due to COVID. Again, being the Canadian, the one with the maple fever, I get really stoked about such adventures. And there's always a little bit of the unknown that makes it just that much more special, because you don't know. It's all intuition, and it's all being guided by the stoke.
So tell me about your ride, man. Let me hear it, man. Walk me through it.
The ride,
step. Drop it in on the board. First run out of the heli. Tell us about it.
First run out of the heli. I have the goldfish, and it's all about going as fast as I can on that left-hand wave with the most amount of grace and control. Remember, you're in heaven and earth, so it's a sacred mission. It's a feeling of being off the mat and putting a meditation into motion. So my intention was to have fun with my friend, and that's exactly what I had. I had the impression, I had the expression, I had the anticipation of each and every turn, and I was maximizing the utility of the value of each and every second.
Yeah. Sweet. Now, this was safer than a lot of helicopter trips, right? Because it looks like not a lot of avalanche risk, more of a surf style ride. I mean, just a beautiful way to go, right?
Totally. And that was something that we communicated with Christian at the very beginning, that we were looking for a very mellow time. You know, the more mellow that we could have is the more radical we could explore in the freeness and openness of terrain. I have plenty of backcountry experience, but the rest of the crew was kind of more in beginner intermediate. So I wanted to take that off of the situation. We wore Avi packs. We did beacon training. We had a whole program in case of, but the primary goal was to never put us in a situation that would even come close to that kind of risk if possible.
Alex, come on, man. I want to hear about it. Were you nervous, or how'd you feel getting on that thing, right? You ever even been on a helicopter?
Never even been on a helicopter, Brian. And I gotta say, you know, heli is a lot like stoke. When it's shared, it's contagious, it's infectious, it's exuberant, and like the flame of a candle, nothing is diminished by being shared. So that light was passed from Aaron's stoke to my stoke, and now I'm just revved up, full flame. Absolutely loved it.
Nice. We got a little video playing in the background while we've been talking. So this is the Instagram. To see you guys on the helicopter, right? You're obviously pretty stoked. Tell me about your run, man. Walk me through it. Dropping in, where you went, what you're riding, what you did. Let me hear it.
Yeah. So, Brian, the feeling is timeless. There's a moment where space and time just coalesce with each other in this very rarefied experience. And like Aaron talked about the blank canvas, there's a certain sense of freedom for artists to have boundaries. And that's kind of like when you do side country or you go skinning into the backcountry. But the helicopter was truly boundless. And for me, the need for speed, in the addition to the freedom of expression, was all jiving and mutating and just really an elevated experience, truly, with the surf craft. I could put it to the ultimate level and it never let me down. And it was just a great, great joy. Like ultimate joy, number one, best experience of my life. And the more beautiful the experience, the only way it can get more beautiful is to be able to share it. So being there with Aaron was amazing, just to share that reciprocation and reciprocity with each other of stoke. Because when he's high and I'm high and we're high, like every day, the memory lives on.
Now you're really dialed in spiritually, like well connected and grounded. I know when I ride, I feel that no matter where I'm at, right? So I know the exact time and space and location. I feel the earth under me, the stars above me, and I kind of connect them through the middle of my body, right? Did you have those kind of lines going? Tell us a little bit about that, because I know you're knowledgeable.
Yeah, I felt the conduit. So I felt like at one point Aaron was the eagle and he had resurrected the condor in me. I've spent a lot of time in Peru. We've done 5 yoga tours to Machu Picchu, and we've done ceremony. And the beauty was it all got resurrected. It all got initiated. And the shaky feeling starts to turn into that transcendent speed of seeing things as they are, which is vibration. And energy always follows awareness. So having fun is really about seeing it all the way through from top to bottom and letting that energy flow through your awareness and being able to channel that consciousness, Cosmic Bandito style, 2 best friends, and living that art. And I would epitomize it as I truly got to live my line the way I wanted to live it. And the freedom was there, and the form was there, and the flow was there, and the friendship was there.
Now that looks like transcendent speed to me, like right this particular part. Look at that. I mean,
Yeah, so
wow, what's
this was
going
a really
on?
cool section. As we flew around, I sat right behind the guide, and he just told me to point whatever looked good to me. So this was our second run. I had put us kind of on a little bit more low angle thing to start and waited for the shadows to recline on this left-hand face. And for me, it was just a super big, wide open left. I took the whiskey jack to be able to handle the speed, and I just set the line and opened it up. I don't know if I've ever quite had an experience like that before with the boards, where I could really just be in an unlimited situation and go as fast as I possibly could. The conditions were a little bit wind affected, but kind of just packed right in there where it was smooth and even. And I just worked that left-hand wall as far as I could, dropped down into the next bottom turn, worked it a little bit further, cut it back, and it was just a imagination in motion.
Yes, sweet. I'll let's see. I got another clip here. So what's going on here? Is this the same run or is this a different run?
So this was the first run, a little bit shallower. But again, the whole idea was to find a nice left-hand wall that I could just open up from bottom turn to top turn and move with unlimited motion.
Oh, that's just a great run. Just watching it kind of puts me, in there. You and I often talk about the differences of riding a snowboard and then riding a snowboard surf style. And I believe when you're on a front side left, right, you're going to be riding differently than if you're on a back side right. So, I mean, there's 4 different ways to turn depending on the terrain you're on. And I suppose maybe 6 if you counted the flats. Am I right? Tell us a little bit about
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, so when I'm out looking for terrain to ride, I'm looking for, as being a goofy, I'm looking for toe side walls where I can really hold my maximum speed, really utilize my body mechanics, and very much see and get to the areas that I want to get to. This is a little bit different than traditional skiing and snowboarding, where you're really just looking down the fall line. So essentially, if we were to consider a gully, and there's the middle, the gut of the gully, and then if you look to the left, there is a left-hand side of the gully up the wall, and you look to the right, there is a right-hand side of the gully wall. So for me in particular, as a goofy, I'm primarily looking for those left-hand sides of the walls, and they've become more and more prevalent and easy to kind of tell. And especially here in the Andes, these regions, we were really able to find a lot of this style of terrain, which was very unique and inspirational.
Now, for those of us that ride regular foot, would you say there's rights and lefts here, or what's the feel?
Absolutely. And probably the rights in this particular zone had a little bit better snow. We had 2 guys who were regular and looked for those areas. And yeah, they might have had a little bit better snow, but I was more focused on the style of the terrain, and the snow was good enough. So yeah, I think that kind of held a precedent. Even though the aspect might have been a little more baked or a little bit more wind affected than the rights might have been, that's where it just kind of held a higher value to me. And you're seeing here maybe 1/8 of the run, this section.
Sure.
So there were 8 of these waves from the top where the heli dropped us off to where it picked us up.
Now, did you have rights and lefts on your run?
Yeah. And again, it's like you're kind of open to a freedom of expression to wherever it is. But for me, I'm always looking to kind of work myself as high up on the left-hand wall as possible and utilize that terrain specifically.
Nice. Alex, how about you, man? Do you do any surfing, or are you strictly snowboarding?
I'm a kite surfer,
Okay.
and I love to paddleboard. Again, being in Toronto, we're limited
Oh, I
with
get it.
how much elevation we get from our water.
Well, a lot of times,
But
we're trying to explain this whole surf style of riding to folks that maybe don't surf a whole lot, but really like
yeah,
the feeling, right? So tell me how
well,
you
Brian,
learned about that, the process.
yeah. So one of the things I've been talking about with Aaron this year is this feeling of float. And whether you're a paddleboarder, a kiteboarder, a surfer, a snowboarder, a skateboarder, a one-wheeler, any kind of e-boarding, it all enters into a flow state. And one of the most beautiful things that the elevated surfcraft boards do on a consistent basis, whether you're riding groomers or backcountry or side country, is this feeling of float. Because of the wider base, you're standing up on the water like a paddleboard.
Right.
And that feeling at first as a beginner is very unstable. And then as you start to progress, just like our yoga practice on the mat, we start to build that stability and strength through flexibility and expression.
Nice. So I also like what I call flow state, right, as compared to float. Now, for me, when I'm in flow, everything kind of slows down. And before I got onto Aaron's board, I had a hard time getting into my flow state. And now that I feel like I'm surfing, it's kind of been the magic thing for me. But I think for everybody, it's kind of different. But that flow state's kind of interesting too, isn't it?
Yeah, flow states are all about optimization of mind, body, and spirit, or mind, body through spirit. We start to really exemplify what we're doing. We're in the present moment with our presence, and each and every interaction is governed by the choice of action that isn't being made by decision. It's being made by intuition. It's being made by the instrumentality of our emotions. And so we're really, really fortunate to enter into that flow state. And the feeling of float is just a feeling of being, again, elevated. Whether it's an inch above the ground or, 10,000 feet into the air, it's a beautiful sensation to feel gravity and the ability to feel levity through gravity, which is a lightness, like laughter.
I wonder, just hearing you talk made me, and I can't really remember this, but, I was in an embryo and I was floating in my mother's womb. And my gosh, I probably, got used to floating around. Is there any relevance to that? Have you given that any thought?
Well, Jefferson Airplane probably said a lot better than all of us with the embryonic journey. And I think that when it comes down to the human organism and water, there's just this innate connection. We were born within it. And once we leave the womb and the umbilicus is cut, we then start to seek that same state because we're water-based beings. And there seems to be a flow to water. And as we ride upon the frozen wave, the cleanest or the fastest moving water is the quickest. So when we look at it in ourselves, when we start to enter into that flow state, the cleanest moving water is the fastest. It is the swiftest is the fastest. And we start to feel something in that timeless state.
When I drop in to take my line, it's all based off of momentum. So if I need more momentum, I drop down the fall line with gravity. If I have extra momentum, I can carve up the fall line until I am out of it and then restart that. And that kind of gives our up and down momentum. So I'm seeing that line, I'm utilizing it with the board, and it gives me a certain inscription on the wall. And by setting that line on there, then it's kind of able to transmit the possibilities. So if I dropped in first, I set the line as best that I can, then Alex is able to see the possibilities of where he can go and see the wave through the track that's there and either follow it a couple feet off or utilize those same motions to set a similar line, but based off of the same wave.
No, I get
So
you.
we've been doing this together for years now, and it's really awesome to be able to watch him now see it intuitively.
Yeah, you reach that point, you know, and it all kind of clicks, you know. And I would have to say this trip has definitely clicked, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, Brian.
And I think you, as you explained to me, you were just going down for a short trip and you decided to extend it, right? So tell me what's coming up and what the thought process there was.
Yeah. Well, after this heli day, and we kind of saw all the possibilities, not just with the snow experience or even the terrain, but really the potential based in the people and community down here. There is so much to explore. People are so open-minded. They all want in and a part of this, so it's very inspiring. And it's also a great opportunity for Alex and I to spend time in the Imaginarium, brainstorming and exploring. So we kind of just decided that we were going to extend our tickets by a month, rent a truck, and see where we could of this whole country.
So I think we're good, guys, on everything. I really enjoyed having you on the SurfQuest vlogcast today, and looking forward to future installments. Aaron, we'll check in after you get a few more adventures, right?
Sounds great, Brian.
Sounds great, Brian.
All right, thank you.
Thanks,
Much
Brian.
appreciated, dude. Always great to hang.
All right, talk to you soon. All right, bye-bye.
Namaste.